Turn failure into fuel. Bill Gates is a genius businessman and a soft-spoken philanthropist who now runs a foundation that's dedicated to improving global health. He's a real stand-up citizen, but he's also publicly admitted he was angry and a difficult boss in his early days running Microsoft. CNBC published an article about Gates in 2021 with a headline, "Bill Gates says he could be as tough on his employees as Michael Jordan was with his teammates. I certainly wasn't a sweetheart." He was notorious for sending critical and sarcastic emails late at night. Apparently, he dropped the F-bomb more than you could count on two hands during most meetings. His former colleagues said they were always scrutinized. Gates was a jerk, and many of his employees still liked him. "You always knew what Bill thought about what you were doing," said one former teammate. "The motivational force for programmers was to get Bill to like their product," another person said. I read this article because my leadership team sent it to me. I wasn't surprised at the comparison. I can be very hard on people and hard on myself. But when they made the comparison that day, I took a hard look at my leadership style. Heading into 2021, I challenged myself to learn how to communicate more efficiently. I told my wife, I told my kids, I told my executive team. I want to communicate more effectively, which means I don't want to lose control as much as I do. I have traits that are assets and weaknesses. Reality check moment. We all do. But you can't do better if you don't look at where you suck. People think you relax a bit as you get older. Not this guy. I love to watch the people around me win. But because of this, I have high expectations and a very short temper. The many life challenges I face make my tolerance level for losing lower than most. I go from 1 to 10. There is no slow buildup when I communicate. When I told everybody that I was going to learn to control myself more, it meant I wanted to learn to go 1, 2, breathe, 3, 4, 5, then maybe I'd try for 10. The fact is, I'm stronger when I don't blow up. A lack of self-control is a weakness that I've had to work on over time. My tendency to jump on people comes from a good place. Maybe you have that character trait too. There is value to being a no BS kind of guy. I always tell people to quit making excuses. When a member of my leadership team tells me why we had a bad month in our business, I tell them to not make dumb excuses. People don't have to like me all the time. Part of being a great leader is being a coach. Sometimes a little tough love is necessary. Sometimes people appreciate it later. It's how we got to the promised land, trying to go public and have been more profitable year after year. But when I get upset and blow, it's not the way to get the best out of people around me. It's because I want everyone to think like me. Sometimes I'm wrong. When I'm tough, I can push people away. I drop bombs. Sometimes I screw myself and my team over by being too pushy. To be successful, especially when it comes to my commitment to communicate better, I must be willing to examine my flaws. That doesn't always feel good, but it's so valuable. Now, when I hit a wall that used to make people explode, I seek help. I talk it through with a business mentor, my wife, and my therapist. I have a counsel that I go to. Failure is a signal for you to learn a new behavior and seek out people who are great at what you're not so you can course correct. As I've gotten better at handling failure, I've learned how to use it as fuel. Success without failure is rare. You can live a risk-averse life, but it won't get you far. Failure is our ultimate education. Embrace it. Understand that it has nothing to do with how worthy you are. Treat failure as a performance metric. Take the emotion out of it. Fail, learn, recalibrate, repeat. I make a lot of athlete analogies, I know. But again, it's fitting here. Athletes are always practicing. They're always getting better. They fail, they evaluate, they change up their strategy, and then try again till they succeed. Always get better. AGB, remember? To get better, you must get cool with failure. Failure is your partner. It's your friend. It's your fuel. Think of an area in life where you're very successful. How much did you fail to get where you are today? Most of what I've ever learned in life isn't because of education. It's because of trying, failing, and trying again. To get better at failure, you must learn to relate to failure as a performance metric and nothing else. Celebrate failure because it means you're playing a big game in life. Focus forward because grudges hold you back. Consider this chapter your failure reconditioning. Welcome to boot camp. It's time to turn failure into fuel. Don't be intimidated by people more educated than you. In starting my first business, I was 25 years old, and I had to learn how to lead people who are 10 or more years older than me and had gone to college. That was intimidating at first, but you learn that it is you they are seeking answers from, and you need to be that person for them. You must learn what it takes to handle that role. Failure is an opportunity. Many of us are conditioned to believe from childhood that if you fail, you've screwed up and you're a bad kid. But you need failure to get success. To embrace failure, you must stop seeing it as an obstacle and start relating to it as a gift or an opportunity. If you don't fail, you can't get better at anything. When failure shows up, it's an opportunity to examine what happened, look for ways to avoid that hang-up next time, and put processes in place to turn it around, improve, and win. If you're not failing, you're getting complacent. The turn failure into fuel principle reminds you to separate the failure from these negative emotions by seeing it as useful to getting to success. Failure is no more than a performance metric or a measurement of your progress. How do we know when a football team loses a game? We look at the score. That score is a measurement of effort. The more points, the higher the score. If your team scores more points than the other team, you win. If you score less, you lose. The score is a performance metric. What's funny about all this is most people only remember your success, not the failures that seem so obvious to us at the time. People usually don't know the backstory of an achievement. They don't know the wounds, the sleepless nights, the loss of paychecks, loss of friends, family members it took to get there. Be like them. Keep your eyes on the achievement you're after. If you play big, you will fail. When it comes to any goal you want to achieve, make sure you're always stretching a little more. That's the key to staying at the top of your game at anything. That means you should be failing. If you're not challenging yourself enough. My 17-year-old daughter, Mackenzie, plays a lot of what's called travel softball. Basically, the team travels almost every weekend for tournaments, and the level of competition is intense. Since her birthday is at the very end of the year, she was almost a January baby, but Liz was induced and she was born on New Year's Eve, she always had to play with teams with players who were a year or two older than her. Because she never played with kids her own age, she didn't have the physical ability, size, or strength to be the best player on the travel team. It was hard for her. I also put her in recreational softball leagues so she could build confidence. And on those pay-to-play teams, she was one of the best. On her travel team, she started at the bottom and worked her way to the middle. But that's the beauty of it. The middle is the best spot. You're hungry to get to the top, but you're not at the bottom getting constantly replaced. My daughter's disadvantage made her better. Had she been born a day later, she could have been on a team where the competition was less intense and she wouldn't have needed to try as much. If you find yourself at the top, look for other people to stretch toward. Stay in the performance sweet spot by always setting higher personal KPIs, key performance indicators. At Power Home, we track KPIs and evaluate roles and performance. When the numbers aren't where they need to be, we churn and burn, fire 20% of the staff. That's why we've grown straight up without flatlining. It's scary, but you won't get anywhere in life if you're not trying. When someone is all in and doing everything they can to get better, I fight for them. Anyone in our organization who embraces feedback and criticism and demonstrates that they are open to learning has an indicator of future of success. That mentality is to be respected. If you're failing, it's a good thing. Just make sure you bounce back. It's not about you and your worth. It's a measurement of your performance and an indicator that you're growing. The benefits of failure. I've played in the World Series of Poker 4 times. I even bought into the $50,000 high-stake game just to play with all the big boys, like Joe Cata and Daniel Negru. It was amazing, and I'm certainly no poker world champ. My friends thought I was crazy to spend $50,000 to lose to the world champions. But I wanted to experience the game at that level to see what it was like. I wasn't going to boo-hoo if I failed. Plus, there are only about 100 people who play in the World Series of Poker $50,000 high roller tournament. And they pay 19 winners. I had a 19% chance of doubling my money or more. In the main event, there's a 10% chance of doubling your money, and you play against 6,000 people. The main event was 11 days long, so of course, I was willing to spend more money and play with the big boys for a 2-day tournament. Losing would mean that I was not as great a player as them, and I knew that. I'd also learn what to do to get better, and I'd get to build relationships with them. I played with the best in the world, and I placed 23rd. I didn't cash out, but I took 2 world pros out. That was enough for me. I failed, but how many people can say they played in the World Series of Poker with the best in the world and eliminated some of the pros along the way? If I was scared to fail, I wouldn't have gotten to do that. The best way to look at failure is to shift your context around it. Failure isn't bad. It doesn't mean you're not a worthy person, so don't get personal about it. Failure is a performance metric that shows you where you fall in the pack and what you need to do to work on to get better. This mindset is how you can use failure to your advantage instead of letting it hold you back. Focus forward. When people can't let go of the past, I tell them, your eyes are in the front of your head, so focus forward. What I mean by that is it's a waste of time to suffer over what has happened in the past. When you focus on the past, you're not concentrating on the future. Said another way, you can't drive very fast if you're constantly looking in your mirrors. If you're not careful, you'll drive your ass off the road. In the heat of the moment, I forget this little pearl of wisdom too. I must remind myself that being mad or overly focused on a loss in the past takes your energy away from the present. Deal with the situation, then move on. If you've had a business failure, learn from it. Analyze. What factors influence the failure? Identify decisions and actions that led you off track and learn from them so they won't be repeated. If outside circumstances were a contributing factor, decide how you might have reduced their influence. Make this a learning experience and use it to inform your decisions. Recently, when I interviewed David Meltzer, my mentor, friend, and co-host on 2-Minute Drill, about how he started over when he hit rock bottom, what he said was powerful. I told myself, if I can look up, I can get up. He said this to himself while lying in bed, watching his cars being taken away as he was being moved out of his house. I lie in bed for the first time depressed, and what comes on the TV? Rocky. Rocky kept getting knocked down. Apollo Creed just kept slugging him, and David just watched. What did he watch Rocky do? He got back up. He gave David the strength to get back up too. If you can look up, you can get up. We all need this reminder sometimes. One trick for thinking ahead is to avoid getting caught up in asking yourself the why questions. They are past-based. People get too caught up in why. Why did this person hurt me? Why did this happen to me? Why did I mess up again? This type of thinking is looking back, and the only answers you're going to get will come from you, the person who is mad about what happened. And trust me, those answers won't be good. It usually looks like, why did I fail? Because I suck. Or why did they hurt me? Because they suck. Why questions are often useless. All they do is put you in a negative thought loop with yourself. Instead, engage curiosity with some forward-looking questions. I failed, which is a performance breakdown. What happened, and what do I need to do next time better? What am I committed to? What actions do I need to take to get closer to achieving the goal I'm committed to? My wife and I both came from imperfect homes. Her dad was in prison, making her mom a single mom. Her mom was not a good mom. She rejected Liz time and time again. She never showed her unconditional love. My parents were not highly educated, and at times, the way they spoke to each other wasn't healthy. They were abusive both physically and verbally to each other, as well as to me and my siblings. They tried to do the best they could. I could stay upset, but that'd be looking back and nursing a grudge. Instead, I can appreciate that they had an upbringing in life that shaped them into the people they became, and that influenced me. When it came to my kids, my wife and I had to fail and learn and fail again as parents. Hannah, my 22-year-old, didn't get my best self, and probably not my wife's best self either. If we had gotten a report card for our parenting, we were possibly a C with Hannah. With my 17-year-old Mackenzie, we might have reached C+. Then with my 13-year-old London, probably a solid B. And I hope that Christian, my 10-year-old son, we're getting a B+ or better. If not, we'll just continue learning and failing like we always have. To be a better dad and mom, we have had to move on from the past. We're committed to being the best damn parents we can be, no matter what our upbringing was. We evolved. We had to fail, assess, and remind ourselves of what we were committed to so we could take new actions. And that makes us much better than if we'd spent all our time looking back. You can do the same.